What's up YouTube, Mr. Lamacy here, and today we're going to be watching the Diablo 4 Into the Endgame video provided to us by Blizzard. I think they're going to give us a little more depth, and we're just going to kind of react, right? Do that whole thing where we watch and talk and all of these pieces. So let's take a look. Let's dive in, shall we? Oh god, that's loud.
We're really excited about getting this game into players' hands and letting them experience this massive world.
A main cornerstone of D4 is play your way. As a player continues to advance through the story and into the endgame, they'll unlock a ton of brand new activities that provide meaningful progression.
Look at the dark lighting behind them, like red lighting. I want to live in that studio.
Progressing in the narrative of the game. Alongside that, the whole team has worked on crafting a variety of different experiences players can pursue.
We're going to have an entire...
I want more information on what all of the variety of the experiences that players can pursue are. I'm just gonna say that. I just would love more. What are all the ways that you want us to play, or you think that you're crafting?
Entire world of Sanctuary for our players to offer. There's going to...
Yeah, sorry Ash for that bad pause.
After the player has finished the campaign, there's a lot more game to go and participate in. They gain access to a special, what we call capstone dungeon that they have to complete. Once they're able to finish this capstone dungeon, they're going to gain access to the first world tier.
As you complete the world tier, it will open up the opportunity for you to go into your next world tier.
So this is just like Diablo 3 to increase the difficulty, right? Here, obviously, they're going adventure to veteran, which you could already do, but I'm assuming you complete the capstone dungeon and then you just open up a nightmare difficulty. So now levels, everything just scales higher? Which is kind of a little weird, because if I'm starting as adventurer or starting as veteran, I guess once you get past the start, then there's like no more like you're a better player or a worse player, like choosing your difficulty. Maybe not better or worse, but casual or more like experienced. So I guess all that just goes away and then it just turns into... But like an adventurer, are they going to then go all the way to Nightmare and just skip veteran? Does adventurer and veteran both get you the same amount of experience from 1 to 50? Or does veteran level you up a little faster? Yeah, I know only veteran during beta, but I'm just wondering for the actual game. 20% more experience with veteran? Okay. But monsters are harder to kill in veteran, right? So I wonder if it actually will end up being faster to like speedrun on adventurer, because you can kill stuff easier and you would like gain more experience actually in that capacity. I know veteran wasn't like crazy difficult for the characters and classes. I'm just saying, I wonder if.
That involves unlocking powerful loot, new items, and more advantages for your player to have a better opportunity at end game.
Whether you're a fan of...
Yeah, I finished the beta at level 8, I think. On one time, because I just tried to not kill anything.
Dungeons, PvP, or just roaming around the world, there's a way to continue your Diablo adventure long after hitting max level.
Do we know if
As a
PvP is
character
going to be in
continues
the
to grow in
game
power,
right
you'll
on
start with the
start?
skill tree and expand out into the Paragon system.
A lot of the choices the players make are grounded on skills themselves and the fantasies associated with those skills. Paragon...
All right, this is... We went through this before, but I gotta say, the Paragon board is just quite boring in what the nodes that they show us here. 5 to strength, 5 to intelligence. The legendary node is just 25% damage.
More depth, a lot more customization.
5 dexterity, 5 dexterity, 5 dexterity, 5 intelligence. It's just like
You
stats
can rotate
everywhere.
the board, so you can choose a different path if you're like, I want to do more strength-based things, right? I want these particular...
5 to willpower, 5 intelligence, 5 dexterity, 5 to strength, 5 to willpower. At least we get a magic node with 50 to armor,
Really away
but then we're to 7 strength for this magic node. So I do wish they'd show us more of the Paragon board and there'd be more nodes in there that were more interesting. You know, give us a little bit more of like, oh, slightly more attack speed, slightly more, you know, like let it just go further beyond all the stats there.
for you to keep expanding your character and making it unique.
So I
to
hope that
yours.
there is more beyond that.
Similar to the Paragon boards is the Codex of Power. It's an in-game system that holds the aspects related to the character. You are able to complete a dungeon, and they will have a chance to drop an aspect that you can pick up.
And what this allows
Now she says have a chance, but in the beta you always got the aspect when you completed the dungeon. So I'm not sure if that's because they boosted the drop rates and so they guaranteed it, or if it will actually be a chance thing where you might have to do grind that same dungeon 10 times before you get that Codex of Power aspect unlocked. I don't know. Mad Mardigan, thank you.
players
She admitted on Twitter it was a
items they're
mistake on
finding
her
in the
part?
world
Okay,
and
so you will
make
get
them
it.
more powerful, turn them into legendary items.
It's really special to discover what kind of playstyle really means the most to you.
Now, Nightmare Dungeons is the interesting part, because this is going to be probably the core game loop of Diablo 4. I imagine this is where this will be like the greater rifts of Diablo 3, right? This is where I imagine you're going to be a majority of the time in Diablo 4. So, dungeons in the beta weren't the most exciting. I'm hoping Nightmare Dungeons really change and do a lot different stuff, but we'll see. I don't know how much information they'll give us right here, but this is a very big, important part of the game that I believe they're going to need to
Every
make
part
sure
of
they do right
Sanctuary
here.
is fulfilling and satisfying. Dungeons in particular are really close to my heart. Nightmare Dungeons are going to give the players the opportunity to experience a dungeon that they might have already experienced in their past playthroughs. They'll enter the dungeon
so-
with a found sigil that alters the playstyle and the intensity of the dungeon.
Right. Okay, so you just, modify with the little sigil and yeah.
They're more difficult and they have additional objectives, and then they also have affixes, which add a degree of difficulty for you and your group to work through.
One of my favorite affixes that you can find in Nightmare Dungeons is actually called Hellgate. Occasionally, these portals will open up throughout the area that will just pour out different monsters that aren't native to that region for you to also be dealing with while you're trying to handle everything else inside the dungeon. There's over 120 dungeons to play through and find in Diablo 4, and any one of them can become a Nightmare Dungeon by finding a Nightmare Sigil and then using it to activate the Nightmare version of that dungeon space.
Everything
I really do wonder how much difference there is between those 120 dungeons. Because, obviously, again, in the beta, the dungeons all felt very similar. I couldn't tell you the difference between any of the dungeons that I played. But I do wonder, will they start to, as you get beyond, because we only saw Fractured Peaks, but let's say you get into all the other areas, and the dungeons do start to gain more variety, whatever it is, even if there's only like 15 dungeons or something like that, are they going to, be quite different enough? And then when I take a night, I'll be thinking about which dungeons I'm taking the Nightmare Sigil to, because this dungeon, plays better for this character and does this and all of that. It's kind of like you have the pit, and then you have ancient tunnels, and then you have, just to get the Chaos Sanctuary or whatever. Obviously, it's not really like a dungeon, but, you could just say it. You've got and the Maggot Lair, you've got these different dungeons, and so you have, okay, which one do I want to bring where? So I'm hoping that they do have enough variety that I do care which dungeon I'm going to, and not so much that it's just like, well, any dungeon works, or that it's just, well, this dungeon drops a little bit better, it drops more sigils because it has this one monster in it. and that's just like every class goes and does that dungeon, you know? Like, I do hope that certain characters perform better in different dungeons.
It's a little darker, everything's more difficult. It's going to add a little bit of a twist of flavor on your particular dungeon.
There's some targeted activities in Diablo 4 that suit what you're feeling in the mood for.
The Forces of Hell are starting to have more influence in certain parts of Sanctuary in the vast interconnected overworld of each.
Now, this part I do like. I do like that they've got kind of experiences around the world that guide you to different places, because that's always one of the best parts of any game, in my opinion, is when they do bring you back to areas you've already been in and things like that, into, you know, new areas.
And as the players are going into Helltide areas,
D4 tears
they'll
on
find
a little bit.
even more powerful monsters, and by killing them, they'll be able to gain these special shards they can take to go and use to purchase these big rewards. Are available at these caches that are found littered throughout Helltide.
This is the
areas.
PvP
The
part.
sky darkens and the rivers run red, meteors fall from the sky, and the monsters get harder. We really want to create new experiences for the players. There's one I really like called Whispers of the Dead, which you get from the Tree of Whispers. The Tree of Whispers is grim and a little gruesome, but it's also something mystically haunting and kind of beautiful.
The tree has a little bit of a grudge against our players, and it would like for them to go serve its needs. So you're going to go serve these bounties, gather different rewards, different items, and bring them back to the tree in hopes that it can exchange you something really meaningful.
So, you know, this is just Diablo 3 bounties, right? But the idea is still, I like the idea of it sending you out to go and do whatnot. I do wish there was... a lot of it will come down to the execution. Is it actually fun to go out and do that? Do you feel like you're, you know, like there's a purpose of going and doing these? Or are you just, you know, right now from this, it's just like you just get a random loot selection. So you do the reward and then you come back and get, you know, 5 different boots or whatever it is. Yeah. I still think the idea has some merit to it. Like I say, it really just depends how it ends up playing.
Maybe you're going to go to the Fractured Peaks and take out some werewolves that are rampaging in a town. They're contained activities that you can do alone or in a group. We really wanted to create variety for people to be able to spend time where they wanted to in the world. It's very cool the way it's been put together, and I can't wait for people to see it, to be honest.
Here's the PvP, Fields of
Diablo 4
Hatred.
have a focus on the world of Sanctuary, and there are parts of that world that we call the Fields of Hatred, where Lilith's presence in Sanctuary has begun to seep through and manifest these poisonous areas throughout the world. When players go to these regions, they get to engage in player versus player conflict.
These offer opportunities for the player to collect shards, but there is a little bit of a catch. In order to get these shards back to town, you will need to purify them. Other players will definitely know that you're attempting to purify your shards, so you'd better be prepared to fight if you're going to be playing any PvP, and be prepared that you might lose some stuff in the meantime.
Once they've got the purified shards, they can take these, go back to nearby towns to sell them, and then use that to buy a whole bunch of like interesting cosmetic items.
Now, this part, I still have questions, because number one, Are we just getting a random glove? Are we getting a random glove cosmetic? I really feel like it would be cooler if I could save up to purchase a very specific cosmetic or whatever it is that I want using the shards, you know? Hey, that shard is 5,000 shard, or that cosmetic's 5,000 shards. Is this more Kadala from D3? So much D3 ported in here. So much of that Yeah, that's because it's like here you do these that, and then you get this. Like, you got a blue glove. That's what we ended up purchasing, which I'm guessing is this is the cosmetic of the glove. And then you sell that, and then you're able to get that. I don't know. I don't fully understand this piece yet. You received a bolting strider's hand wraps of discharging. Yeah, I don't know. I wish they would change that piece. I don't feel like I want to go gamble with all of it like that.
It's a place for people who really love PvP and want to still get loot and still increase their character's power. If that's the way they want to play, they can.
Now, I do love this still the idea of like the PvP fields where you go and collect shards and fight each other and steal them from each other. I think that is really fun.
Which is just the beginning. One of the things we're really focused on is creating a living, breathing set of updates for players to engage with after the game has gone live.
It's really just going to be a way to keep coming back and experiencing more Diablo 4 in fresh ways.
We're really eager to hear all of your experiences and just enjoy the entire story with you all.
That boss is dope. So, I mean, overall, there's definitely Diablo 3 influence into that endgame there, right? You have Nightmare Dungeons, which seem like to act like greater rifts / maps a little. You have the Tree of Whispers, which is bounties. You have the PvP fighting, which is cool, but then the what you know purchasing Kadala purchasing of the question marks I don't really love with it. Yeah. You know, I think it's okay. I think the biggest question or the biggest piece that it'll come down to is Diablo 4 Nightmare Dungeons, or are Nightmare Dungeons fun? That's it. Because if Nightmare Dungeons are not fun, I think the game will tire out very quickly. And because even something like Paragon Board, it's like, you know, that I do wish they would kind of adjust that more. And maybe they just ended up showing us all the wrong nodes. But even that, it's like you're going to get through it and then you're going to be through it, you know? And that'll just be that. So it's going to be kind of the past that piece. Where will all of it be? You know. So those are the questions. Stats don't matter in the game. People keep saying stats don't matter in the game, but I mean, stats have to matter in the game, right? Like, they're gonna do stuff, otherwise all of that bonus stat that you're gonna be adding is gonna be whatever. I mean, again, the idea is not, is repetition bad? Repetition, grinding is a core element of ARPGs. That is never the question. The question is that repetition fun or not? That is the difference. That's the difference between a game that you can put thousands of hours in and a game that dies out quickly. They can both have grinding and repetition and all of that. It's just, will it be fun? Are you excited to log in again and do that dungeon again? That is the question for Diablo 4. Will I want to continue doing all those nightmare dungeons and doing all those pieces over and over again? That's it. Maybe yes, maybe no. But that is the question. So a lot of people mistake that. They think, we're saying all repetition is bad. That's not what we are saying.